Hey guys, Andrew Shrout here on the sideboard. I'm here with Derrick Sheets, Season 1 Invitational Champion, and we're here to talk about your Legacy deck. Now, you won the Charlotte Invitational with Deathblade.
Yes, yeah, correct. Very similar to this. Well, I wouldn't say very similar. Similar to this, the usual suspects you would see in Deathblade / Sunblade decks. So Unfortunate Mystic and his pair of good cards.
Yeah, right off the bat, we see that we're doing something a little different this time.
A little bit different. I knew for the tournament, I for sure wanted to play with that guy. So Unfortunate Mystic is super good. You get to play Magic against people. It's interactive. It's not just some combo deck.
Okay.
And I have a ton of experience with it, and a ton of experience for me means a lot because I don't have a lot of experience with playing as of late. And Deathrite Shaman I think is super well positioned right now. The problem is that Deathblade is just, typical Deathblade with Thoughtseize and Liliana is almost unplayable, I think, because of the power of Treasure Cruise. Liliana doesn't do enough work anymore. Thoughtseize, where it's really good against combo decks and very disruptive, when you're Thoughtseizing your opponents with Treasure Cruise in them, it's kind of lackluster. Which led me to this guy. So if you're expecting a lot of Delver, a lot of creature decks, neither Reliquary is gigantic.
Okay.
Another important thing against Delver decks is since they're mostly primarily blue-red based, and they all have infinite Pyroblasts after board, some of them playing 2 main and then siding into 3 more, so that's 5. It's green and white, which is very good because if they're trying to kill all your creatures with lightning bolts and it's a 4/4 on turn 3 or a 5/5 on turn 3, it's really embarrassing when they have a fistful of Pyroblasts and they're just dying to a green-white creature. Also, Night lets you punish people for their playing atrocious mana bases right now by fetching up a land we'll see later, which is Wasteland, which a lot of people kind of like just forgot about, like he's Dre. But Wasteland is fantastic right now. People are getting really ambitious with their mana base, and Nights help punish.
Of course, you can chain together Wasteland. So
yeah, it's not the first Wasteland, it's the 4th one. Right. The 4th one's a doozy.
And then the Night comes with all of them rolled into one.
Correct, correct.
Can't get away from True Name Nemesis.
It's hard to. It has protection from people, which is a very good thing when you're playing against only one person. It's just super problematic for the creature decks to deal with. It's the best card in the fair matchups, was like people like to call them, where you're combating with creatures. Vidalian Click has been kind of like my go-to guy. It does everything you want. It's a creature. It's disruption. It's a blue card, which actually is a problem for this deck because you don't really have a lot of blue cards.
Okay.
Then 4 Swords of Plowshare, which is pretty much generic in any deck that has Tundras in it.
It's a powerful Legacy.
Yeah, yeah, you should definitely be playing it. If I could be playing one more, I would play one, but Path is not quite Swords of Plowshares.
Brainstorm, you're a blue Legacy deck.
Yeah. Think really hard on Brainstorm. It's really hard for me not to play Brainstorm. I had a bunch of guys back home that wanted me to play 10 planes in my deck. There's no way I'm not going to play Brainstorm. playing 4 Brainstorm. This spell snare might seem out of place, but it's actually kind of a hedge to games 2 and 3. In Legacy, you have a very robust way of building your decks where you can actually build 75-card decks super fluidly. And the way you should think about building decks for Legacy is as a 75, way more so than anything else. So the Spell Snare is where it's a card where it's not super wonderful against anybody outside of Storm in Game 1. In Game 2, it plays a huge role against people like Blue-Red Delver, whose cards that are best against you are Smash to Smithereens and Price of Progress.
Okay.
Happens to both cost 2.
Sure.
It's not very good against Show and Tell, but they side into Fence Grids and Pyroclasms. Happens to cost 2. It's also a card that's not completely dead against anybody Game 1, so I have one in my deck where it should probably be a sideboard card, but since you're playing with Brainstorms and a bunch of shuffle effects, that you can still get value out of one of like Spell Snare, where there would be, you want them somewhere in your 75, and it happens to fell in the main deck slot.
Okay.
2 Dig Through Time, there's no reason at all right now, in my opinion, to be playing Legacy without one of the Delve cards in your deck.
Right.
Dig Through Time is better if you're looking for particular cards. Treasure Cruise is better in Delver strategy, where we're just looking for a ton of cards. Also, Treasure Cruise is better in the Delver decks because it only costs 1 blue, where colored mana is way more of a premium in this deck. I don't want to tap out. Getting blue is not too hard, and I'm generally looking for specific cards, not just numbers of cards.
Okay. And then some counter magic.
Yeah, a sweet counterspell package. Normally people don't really like Spell Pierce because it's very easy to play around, but with all these decks being super greedy on their mana bases and me playing a Wasteland deck, a lot of the time Spell Pierce is literally just counterspell against them. When they're Rug Delver players are playing on 1 or 2 lands with them, Wastelanding them, Spell Pierce on your Treasure Cruise, they really can't play around it. They have hardly any lands in their deck. 4 Force of Will, of course. Counterspell is, although Legacy in general is very fast, people don't really kill you too fast outside of the couple combo decks. So a card like Counterspell is just a catch-all generic counterspell. It counters the spell. I mean, that's what the name does. That's exactly what you want. So a simple one of.
Okay. The equipment package for your Stone
equipment package, Council's Judgment. Somewhere in my 75, I wanted a way to kill artifacts, enchantments, and True Name Nemesis outside of Zealous Persecutions. Council Judgment does every single one of those. I actually added it last minute and took out a Mazavith, which should probably still be in my deck, but it's not. But Council Judgment was a card I wanted somewhere in the 75. It's not bad against anybody, so I threw it to the main deck.
All right. And onto the land.
Yeah. I might not be completely correct, and not everyone might share my opinion on this, but I actually think people in Legacy just don't play enough lands. I'm playing 23 in this, and the reason I say that people don't play enough lands is when you're using brainstorms and your cantrips to only look for lands, you're not getting full value out of your brainstorms. But if you have enough lands where you can cast brainstorm and put down extra lands because you don't actually need them, you're actually just drawing 3 cards and then shuffling the bad ones away. If you look at some of these Delver strategies, they're super streamlined. All the cards do pretty much the same thing. They're creatures, draw spells, counter spells, or burn. That's all they are. But in a deck like this, if you play more land, it lets you find your, the cards that actually matter and tuck away your extra land. So I'm playing 23 land, which is probably more than most people. Normal variations of sack lands to go with brainstorms.
Yeah.
Also, these are very important for pumping up Nightingale, create protector against lightning bolt, fork bolt, etc. Getting free ways to throw lands in there. My incredibly greedy mana base, because I don't think anyone else is going to be playing with a ton of wastelands. Needs to cast all your spells. Scrub land is a black card, good for Deathrite Shaman game 1. I have some sideboard cards that are black in the board.
And some more dual lands.
More dual lands, and then four wastelands, which is really the reason I wanted to play the deck. I wanted to punish people and play Stoneforge Mystic, and this was what I came up with.
All right, and then a little more spice for your night.
Yeah, Karakas. Having 1 Karakas in your deck and 3 Knights means you have 4 ways to find it. Against Reanimator and Show and Tell, it's a really big trump. It's it adds a lot of time, and since this deck is pretty aggressive, a couple extra turns is it could be as much as 15, 60 damage.
Okay.
Bajoku Bog is a hedge against the graveyard decks. It's kind of slow against Reanimator, but it could happen. But also just helps control treasure cruises, dig through times, the delve strategies.
All right. Before we get to the sideboard, let's talk a little bit about what you're expecting the metagame to look like.
Yeah. For better or not, Legacy, it is hard for people. People don't get a lot of advantages by playing a new deck and spicing it too much, because Legacy is such a hard format. It's more advantageous for you to play something you're comfortable with, play cards you played before. So if you look around the field, there's only me plus 15 people. You could kind of gauge what people are going to be playing.
Right.
I expect a lot of Delver. I expect a couple people to be playing Miracles, a couple people playing Elves, maybe just one when I say either of those. A couple is close enough. And then maybe some people trying to get interesting because they've played Show and Tell in the past or Reanimator in the past. So that's what I expect. Maybe a Storm deck, a bunch of Delver decks, maybe a Show and Tell, maybe a Reanimator, Miracles, Elves.
All right.
No Mud. I don't think anyone's dangerous enough to play Dredge.
Sure.
But that's what I expect to feel, and that's what the 75 is geared towards.
So just kind of run through the sideboard cards real quick.
Sure.
What we're doing with them.
Hydroblast, red cards.
Red cards, yeah. Sure. All right. Yeah.
But it actually does a little bit more than that. It's a 5th Swords to Plowshares because the best card the Rug has against you is Young Pyromancer. Solves that problem. Also, this deck is very bad against Blood Moon. Counters Blood Moon. It's counters Show and Tell, or excuse me, Sneak Attack part of Show and Tell. Zealous Persecution, good against Elves and Death and Taxes and all your dude decks, Young Pyromancer, etc. Flusterstorm. It's probably your best counterspell against Storm. On the flip side, you don't want to play 4 because they have Cabal Therapy, so you kind of want to diversify your counterspells against them. Sure. You don't want to play 4 Flusterstorms. You'd rather have a Flusterstorm, a Spell Pierce, and a counterspell in your hand than 3 Flusterstorms.
Right.
But it's good against Storm, also good in Show and Tell. Abrupt Decays are against the creature decks, Delver, Counterbalance. It's kind of also a catch-all. There are a lot of cards that are problematic. Another one is, like I said, Blood Moon. I know it's kind of weird to talk about killing Blood Moon with your Abrupt Decay in your blue-white deck, but this is Legacy, so
we can make it work.
We'll make it work. Yeah. Baneslayer is just a giant guy against the Delver deck. It's going to be good. They have a gigantic hard time killing it. I do understand that it costs 5, but post-board I have so much removal, and the games are going to go kind of long that it's just going to be game over. Also, like I said before, a bunch of people have Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast. Well, this thing is white, so they just can't kill if they're blue-red. Okay. Meddling Mage, super versatile card. Against all the combo decks, you need to actually still be aggressive against them. You can't just do nothing.
Sure. Because
eventually they'll kill you. So if you're a Disruption package, they need to make sure they can attack, they add pressure, and this is a perfect card.
Okay.
Containment Pierce, same thing. It's Reanimator X, Show and Tell, etc. Tabernacle is a hedge against Elves. I expect there at least be 1 or 2 Elves people playing in the tournament. And if you're talking about 1 or 2 people in a 16-person tournament, chances are you probably play them in one of your possible 7 Legacy rounds. It also can just catch people off guard since you're wastelanding people. They're on the Young Pyromancer plan. You just get it at the end of their turn. They'd lose all guys but 1.
Sure.
Super good. Elspeth is going to be good against the Miracles matchup, which my matchup is not super good, but it's a 4-drop kind of hard to counter 4-drops in that deck sometimes. It's also white, they can't rev and pyroblast it. It's also a planeswalker. They don't have a lot of ways to interact with them outside of, like just making their Jaces super better, which is what most people plan on this slot being. But Elspeth on the bright side, it makes tokens, so it embarrasses Terminus and Swords to Plowshares. It actually kills Jace, no problem, because I make a token. If you bounce my token, I make another token. If you brainstorm, I leap my token and hit yours.
Right.
So it's super good against that matchup. And it's also pretty good against Bug. Bug has a huge problem dealing with 4-drops, huge problem dealing with Planeswalkers. So that's what it's there for.
All right. Well, it sounds like you have put a lot of thought into this list.
Yeah, Legacy is one of the things that rewards people for building decks, and I think that's always been one of the things I've been good at. Is building decks and not tapping my mana correctly. So I think that this is a format where I got some stuff going for me.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for coming in and talking to me.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Stick around. We've got plenty more coverage coming of the Players' Championship here in Roanoke.